Hello and welcome to another episode of the Chrissie Mayr podcast. We are on iTunes, YouTube, Spotify, and SoundCloud. And if you're listening to us right now on iTunes, go ahead and leave a 5-star review. I'll be doing some stand-up in a city near you, September 9th. Actually, September 10th and 11th, I'll be in Las Vegas with comedians of The Compound. I think tickets are still available for those shows. And then I'll be heading to Texas the following weekend, September 17th and 18th. I'll be headlining Hyenas in Dallas. And then I'll be back with Comedians of the Compound October 16th. We're doing a stadium show out in Lakewood, New Jersey. And then I'll be heading to California. Oh my God, what is left of California? I'm going to see. I will be heading to Santa Monica October 22nd and 23rd to do 4 shows at the Broadway Comedy Club West. I'll be performing with Bridget Fetisi and Sam Tripoli. Very excited to do those shows. And then November 6th, I'm doing a show back in the area in Jersey in Morris Plains at Tiff's. So excited to do stand-up in a city near you. And if I've mentioned a place that you really love, a club that you really love, that's not mandating vaccines or vax passes, yeah, just let me know. Tag the place, tag me on the Twitter or whatever social media that you like. Quick shout out to our sponsor, Cushy Dreams. We could not do this without you, Cushy Dreams. They are my go-to for all things CBD. They specialize in very high quality bud and pre-rolls. I personally really love the pre-rolls. I'll take a couple sips before bed and I feel nice and relaxed. And you can join the men and women who are sick of vapes and gummies and want to smoke their CBD. Go to cushydreams.com, Kushy, Cushy with a K, cushydreams.com, and use promo code CMP. You're going to get 20% off every order. They've got different indica sativa blends like relax, peace, hustle, create. So whatever you want to do with your day, Cushy Dreams has you covered. Go to cushydreams.com. That's KUSHY dreams.com. All right. I'm so excited to have this gal on the podcast today. I feel very special because I think I am the very first podcast or interview that she has done since she's gone viral. I mean, this article that the Daily Beast picked up, and it was, picked up by a lot of other news outlets. And I think I'm the first person she's talking to about it. So I'm honored. I'm honored that she chose me. She is an adult film star, producer, director. She's also got a pretty amazing OnlyFans that we'll talk about. Nadia North. Hello, hello.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm good.
Looking good. I love the flag in the background. You got to do the flag in the background.
We're matching. Yeah. I love it.
Ooh, and your outfit matches with the whole thing.
I kind of know that.
Yeah, you got to do it. You got to do it. I know. It's so funny to let's have podcast small talk, even though it's like the reason why you're here and the thing that we're talking about is, it's not a light subject. It's a very sort of brave thing that you're doing to come out with it. To make a long story short, for the viewers who haven't heard, and correct me if I'm wrong on any of this, Nadia, but basically had kind of like a long, sorted relationship, met your husband, Peter North, through the adult industry, married in around 2017. And correct me if I'm wrong with any of this, but married in 2017. And, there was 11 or so instances of domestic abuse. I mean, this is not just some light stuff here. You suffered concussions, broken ribs, bruising, head contusions, spinal injury. Like this sounds like a lot. I was reading, Daily Beast was the first to break the story a couple days ago. Peter was then arrested twice in June of 2019. And then he allegedly, it feels annoying to say allegedly, but it's like, and then a rape just a couple months later in August of that same year of 2019. So now you're trying to get a divorce and like just catch up, because I know I'm probably glossing over a lot. I think I'll pull up this Daily Beast article so so folks can see just what you went through. I'm sure this is not an easy thing to talk about. Let me see if I can
Yeah.
pull this up here. Do, do, do. And what's interesting is, I guess this was during one of the times, I guess this was in 2019, and I think you were trying to break away from him, and you ended up recording with your cell phone, and you kind of slid it under a bed, and you were able to record basically Peter saying what sounds like some pretty kind of like a pretty damning kind of confession of this abuse. Um, and then in this Daily Beast article, there's these different, pictures of you, pictures of, the bruising. You were able to take pictures, and plenty of proof along here. Um, this is some heavy stuff, Nadia. So I don't know. It guess in your own words, if you want to explain kind of how this all kind of came to be, and what led you to wanting to, speak out about it.
Um, I want to be able to help other, survivors who've gotten away. And actually, that audio was after he just got on kicking me in the back of the head, and I was physically ill, so I didn't know if I was going to make it or not. He just drugged me, and he wouldn't let me leave the room. So he wanted to make sure I passed out. So I wasn't sure if I was going to live or die, and I started my cell phone because I wanted him to be outed, if something happened to me.
So this was the time, yeah, you started your cell phone, you pressed record, you slid it under the bed, and this was the instance, and you were trying to leave him, I guess, at this
Yeah.
point, and you said he had shoved a bunch of pills in your mouth. Do you even
Mhm.
know what those pills were at the
I think
time?
I think they were Valium because he's really addicted to Valium. So he used to take that a lot. But literally, he went to the gym and I had like a bag ready because I knew by the look in his eyes something was gonna happen. And just like a pair like clothes, you know. And it was one of those things that kind of like go across you. And then I opened the door and he forgot something. He came back and he's like, where? Because we had a pretty lengthy spiral stair. I went up the spiral stairs into the bedroom because it's the only. He took all the locks off all the doors in the house, so the only spot that there was a lock was a small personal bathroom off of our master bathroom. So I was running for that, and he caught me and grabbed onto that, and then swung me around and started to kick me. And that's why he was worried about my hand because I blocked one of them, and I got to turn over because But I had brain surgery before. And I don't think anybody knows that. So he knows that I have a soft spot on my forehead. I can't get hit there. So I was trying to block it, and, it was bad. And then he just, yeah.
So this is, you had some sort of, I guess, like brain or head surgery in, as a complication of this abuse, and he kind of knew. I mean, no, it's never good to get hit in the head, and it's like
No, the brain surgery was actually prior to me meeting him. So he knew I had, I had a huge brain tumor. I almost died. So, he knows I can't get hit in the head. So that's, he used to always say things too, like, I mean, well, obviously he tells me all the time, like, he's going to kill me, but yeah. And then he put me in my son's room is where that was taking place because he wanted me to pass out. And we have like these ottomans, and he was sitting in the doorway first, just watching me because I was gurgling because I was still throwing up from him kicking me in the head because I had a really bad concussion and I was bleeding. And yeah, and I threw it under the bed, and I didn't even remember I did that, honestly. So, it took a while for me to find that. That actually went on for hours. So, it was bad.
And like, for the people listening, like for anyone who's been in an abusive relationship, like I've been in an abusive relationship, not to the degree that you have, Nadia, but like people who are listening who maybe have never been in one, or they just, I know a lot of people will have so many, probably have a lot of feelings about this, like, well, she was in the adult industry, she met this guy through the adult industry, a lot of your work involves maybe violent scenes or pain, or like, I'm sure a lot of people are going, well, like, you're in that industry, you meet somebody from that industry, um, you know, and
Yeah.
I don't think people mean to have, you think this because you're like, oh, well, not that in any way you deserved it, but I think a lot of people think
They stereotype.
well, you're in this world.
They stereotype a lot,
Mhm.
and they think, well, okay, there's a big difference between having rough sex and, somebody behind you and pounding you really hard or really passionate. But I mean, you're talking about him throwing me on the ground and choking me and, and then throwing and hit me so bad you broke 3 ribs. I mean, that's not exactly, porn or sex. So.
Right. And folks don't understand, like, and you were married to this guy for I think about 3 years, and it's not like in a lot of abusive relationships, your finances are tied up in one another, your business is tied up in one another, which yours was. Families are often it's not always the easiest thing to just at the first sign to be like, well, I'm out, because it's a lot to
Yeah.
untangle. People don't know, like, prenup, not, I mean, you were saying at one point when you were trying to leave, he would just like he drained all the bank accounts. He would say to you, like, if you want to go visit your son. So your son had a room in the house that you had with you and Peter, and then did he also live somewhere else?
We also had a farm in Ohio. So a lot of times we were on opposite coasts, and that's what people don't understand. So we would laugh and say we're high-fiving in the air. But the reality of it is that he had to come back for his pills and his steroids and go to his drug dealers. So I would go shoot and do all the scenes we needed to do, get the locations, make sure the editing's done, do all of that. So I ran the production company, and then I would fly right back and then see my son. But he would fly back to California and go visit this forensic psychiatrist who was actually on the O.J. Simpson trial. Yeah. So it's like a Hollywood story nobody would ever guess. And they're putting my name on scripts. That wasn't me. But no, we were actually only married a little over a year.
Oh, okay.
And we came out and said we were married, because he did propose. But I just didn't feel like it was right. I actually called it off a couple times.
You called off.
He begged me to marry him for his birthday. And that's why.
Yeah. Like, wouldn't you just like a watch or something? Like most guys, like, come on. Yeah.
Right.
Usually guys want to get away from their wife or their girlfriend for their birthday, but he was the opposite. So do you want to explain a little bit like how the two of you met, and maybe, what was the first sign of something being wrong?
Well, we met. I actually emailed him about featuring, and I didn't know he was a producer. And then he mentioned, because I didn't want to do porn or anything, but he mentioned he had this nutrition company, and would I like to raise capital for that? Because I already did commercial real estate. And the reason was I was looking for a little extra money because my son has had 14 major muscle and tendon transfers. So I used to flip companies really quick and then, go live in the hospital with my son, to be very honest.
Wow.
That was
How old is he, like, at the time when you...
I mean, he was actually injured at birth. He has Erb's palsy, so he got stuck at birth. And he paralyzed half his face and his arm. And then his face came back. But literally, I would go live, in this hospital for like a month and a half with my son. And this was all the time. So I was really good at going into businesses and just saying, look, you need to do this, 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 and this. And he saw that I was good at that because his business was not doing well, but I didn't know that.
His fitness business was the one that you wanted to try and flip.
Right. And I actually had a few investors that came to him and was like, they were bigger investors. He wasn't used to that. And he's just like, I really like this girl. We started talking on the phone. He invited me out to California a few times. I said no. Then he finally talked me into going out there. So I went out there, and I said it in an interview before, but actually the first day did not go so well because I said, this isn't going to work. You're a little bit of a diva. Because he really was. He was trying to be controlling. I should have realized then.
What did you do for your first date?
Honestly, he just picked me up at the airport, and then we went back to his house, but he wanted to go work out.
Ugh.
Yeah. You see what I mean? I was like, yeah. So then he's like, here, you could take my Range Rover. And so, of course, I'm like, okay, I'm going to go look around. I've never been,
This doesn't even sound like a date.
Right. Exactly. it was so weird. And then he was mad because I was out longer than I said I was going to be, because I was driving down the coastline and all excited. And that's when I said I was going to leave. And then he's like, can we just try this again? And then from there, he was better. You know, he was very sophisticated. He was very poised. And I liked that, you know, and I had no idea that he owned a production company. I did not know that about him. So when I got there, I was kind of like, okay, I wasn't expecting this, but not like it matters, you know? So yeah, that's kind of how we started.
So you originally met him because you wanted to help him with his nutrition company. And then how did you learn that he had an adult film production company?
We talked on the phone a lot. So after I went to the Arnold show for his business, you know, that's when we started to talk a lot. And he told me, he goes, you know, I want to tell you something. I used to be in the gay industry. And because I knew he did porn, but I'm like, okay, and because I don't judge people. I mean, you're still the same person.
Yeah, what you do with your butthole and your dick and balls is your business.
Exactly. It doesn't, I'm just like, everybody do your thing. You know, as long as you're not hurting anyone, it doesn't matter. Like, I support everyone, you know, but he said, please don't judge me like everyone else. So he kind of got to me that way, you know, because I felt bad for him in a way, because he said he doesn't hang out with a lot of people and, you know, they only care about him. And I've had high profile relationships before. I actually just got out of that one right before him. That was a touring musician. So to me, like, everybody's the same. I don't get starstruck. I just think everybody's like awesome people, you know? So
he told you, okay, I've been in like the gay industry, and you were like, well, what is that? And you weren't judgmental about it, but like, so he seemed like almost like pre-concerned or worried that you would judge him.
He wanted me to feel sorry for him in a way, I think. He just was like, you know, don't be like everyone else.
Okay.
You know, does that
you were like, no, I'm fine with it.
I'm like, I'm okay. He's like, you're so different, you know? Because I mean, I didn't know and I didn't care.
And that's when he said, like, I like produced adult content.
Well, yeah, he said he was a producer, but I was, you know, I don't know what that meant. And then when I get there and I see Ferraris and a house, you know, cool and stuff, I'm like, okay, that was what I was expecting, but no biggie, you know? So I don't know. It's just, that's how we just everything kind of evolved. And he would fly me out every once in a while, and then I flew myself out every once in a while, and then he came out to me. So yeah. I mean, then he involved my son in the proposal. So he had a condo in Maui, and he flew us out there. So we involved my son with that, and I thought that was so sweet, you know? So I said yes, and I went from there. And then he asked me to quit all my other jobs and just focus on his business. And then slowly he started firing everyone, and I was taking over those roles. So, you know, in one of his directors at the time, he didn't like me. So, and I didn't know why, but here he was giving him drugs too. So it was hard for Peter to let him go but this guy, he was paying all this money he shouldn't have been. You know what I mean? And I'm seeing these weird things that says prescription and like the stuff on these invoices. So he finally got rid of him, but I didn't know he was going to that other doctor, you know. But yeah, I started taking over doing box covers, and then he would get a little upset because I don't know, you know, and I'm pulling barcodes, I'm doing deal memos, doing purchase orders, I'm getting locations, I'm booking all the talent. And he would give me such a hard time about talent because he had a specific look that he always used to do. And I was like, look, we have to brand you a different way. And he would get frustrated with me because I'm like, hey, we got to do this like Instagram thing. And he's like, I don't want to talk to anybody. I don't want to talk to my fans. They just, you know, everybody knows I'm fine. But anybody who's worked with him, even when we went to Exotica, knows he was always late and he was irritated sitting there. And it was very hard
to work with. And you were able to kind of like wrangle him and help everything work better.
Yeah. But then when I took over the company, all of a sudden I'm working crazy hours. And then he's like, you know, if you do these scenes, you don't have to do it that long. Because I wanted to get my real estate license out there. But then he realized I was really good at what I did, you know, because I can do all this stuff that most girls, you know, in the industry don't. Like, you know, the double, I don't know if I could say stuff on here or not, but like, you know, the double things. And
Oh, yeah. I mean, like, sure. Yeah. Double anal, you mean?
yeah,
Double spreadsheets. Yeah.
exactly.
So,
And
like, when did you start being in the adult films? Like, how did you go from just like working behind the scenes or on the business end to being in them?
he asked me to. He's like, you know, it would really turn me on, and you know, you're so beautiful. I just want to like, you know. And then I was like, I don't know, because you know, I'm not sure. And then he's like, he got kind of funny. He goes, well, why is it okay that I did it, but you're not going to do it? And I'm like, oh, okay. So then it made me feel guilty. I'm like, all right, you know, I'll do this. And he couldn't perform anymore. So I don't know if people knew that or not.
On camera? You mean like okay. So he sort of phase out of
No, his he's known for his pop shot, you know, and he can't do that anymore.
Yeah, the more adult film stars I'll talk to, the more I don't know, I feel for guys in the industry because there's so much pressure. There's so
Yeah.
many people looking at you. Guys end up shooting like who knows what into their
I think it's Caberjack or what, you know, and
okay.
then they get Peronis because it builds up scar tissue. So then he can do his pop shot, but it also makes sure like penis like shrink but thicken. So he was like 9.5 inches around, like by the time it was done. Yeah. So when I was with him, I mean, that then he would look at his comments all the time and be like, look, people don't think my penis is perfect anymore. And he would sit in front of the computer and watch this. And I'm like,
So he was like insecure. I mean, yeah, it's easy to get insecure about your looks when it's like that's how you're making your
right.
that's your business is. I'm going to answer a couple of these questions from the super chats. Question piggybacking off of Chrissy's comment on rough sex. Do you think men are being desensitized to slapping, choking, rough sex, etc. via porn and that possibly this leads to more sexual assault? Yeah, I've heard people use this argument.
It depends. I mean, there were certain things I did not feel comfortable shooting and I wouldn't shoot them because I didn't want to think that, okay, for instance, like the stepbrother and like stepmother stuff, I didn't do that kind of stuff because I didn't want to, or stepdad with a girl, like I didn't want to think that somebody was shoot, if that makes sense. I don't think that if you have rough sex and it's with somebody that you love, I mean, it can be very passionate, but there's a total difference. But some people really like bondage, and that's their excitement. So whatever you're into sexually, you know, that's totally different than getting abused.
And that's got to be hard too, especially if you are someone who likes it really rough, and then it's like when things were good with you and Peter, like, did you enjoy like kind of rough stuff?
No, we weren't like that at all. Believe it or
Okay.
not, like ours was always like really passionate and like, and it was like all the time because that was one of the reasons, and he used to say it all the time because he was like, before you, like, I just didn't even think my dick worked anymore. And he goes, he was always hard around me. So he was like so excited about that. And, you know, he was just like, we were always having sex and it was always like passionate. So
Super
we weren't,
compatible, a lot of chemistry, yeah. And
yeah.
then so it wasn't until like he got abusive that things got obviously real rough and
Yeah.
inappropriate. Yeah.
Cause it wasn't the first time that he did that. Cause I know that it said about the rape, you know, in California, but he did it another time in Ohio. And then he laughed and said, I heard you crying. So, yeah.
What to you was like the first sign that something was not right, that he was like an abusive guy looking
Um,
back?
yeah, I mean, he did that one thing the first time he ever touched me. Um, and we rented a place in California. We had some stuff there. And he called the police because he thought I was going to freak out and call the police. So he tried to blame me. So the police came, saw I was bleeding all over, you know, and he didn't have a mark on him. And I never saw that report till later. I didn't know that he was trying to blame me, and they arrested him. And I'm just like, what just happened? I mean, there was no reason. And he's like, I'm sorry, you know, it must have been my roids. Like, you know, I'm off my cycle. It'll never happen again. And then when we got married, you know, right away, it was within like a couple days, he's just like, he's changed, just completely changed. And he's just like, look, we don't have any money. I've been taken out of the savings. I lost 1.1 million. You know, I'm like, well, okay, we got this. Like, you know, the house has a bunch of equity. You know, we have cars that are paid for. You're not poor. He's like, well, where the hell am I going to work? I'm Peter North. And it's like, what are you talking about? You know?
So you got married and then he was commenting about like losing money, or the business was losing money, or
Yeah.
okay.
Then he told me, and I'm like, okay, we got this. But then he wanted me to work more. And it was getting to the point that it was just ridiculous. He wouldn't let me come back to Ohio to see my son. He would just cut off all the accounts or cut off my cards, and they'd have to mail me a new one. He goes, look, you're doing more scenes. It's plain and simple.
And when did that start? Because I know in the Daily Beast article, it mentions you were like, he'd make you do like several basically like very rough scenes in a row, where normally like you take a few days in between to like recover. But he said, well, you can't, unless you do all these scenes in a row, like you can't see your son, or don't have access to your money.
There was one I had, it was okay, you're gonna laugh because I always say 3 ways, but there was 3 guys and me, so that's a 4-way, I guess.
Yeah.
You know, and they were very big guys. And then right after, and that's all anal, you know, and then right after that, I work with Mandingo, which he's huge, and that's, you know, anal. And I'm just like, my body was just taking so much.
You're in a wheelchair after that. Yeah.
But then I was expected to work the next day, which I did. So I did 2 more anal scenes the next day for that one. So that was where it started. And then it just got worse and worse and worse. So when I did the double anal with, who did I do that with? Mick Blue and somebody else. But, you know, he's like, well, you could have done, you know, another one. We should have got another guy to do vaginally while you're doing the double anal, and we could have spread you. And I'm like, you know what I mean? Like I don't.
He should have known. Like he had been in the business long enough to know that, like, not to put you through that kind of a schedule.
Yeah. And then, you know, then from there, he just hated being on set. He didn't like to talk to people in the industry. He was very funny. He would talk down on everyone. And, you know, but then when he went somewhere, he was completely different. Just like when we went to the AVN Awards. Nobody knows. We went to the white party, you know, one of the AVN Awards, like parties. And then from there, it's like, that's where, you know, he hit me in my stomach. He actually kicked me.
At the AVNs?
And I'm still wearing that white dress. Yeah, it was the night before the red carpet. And I'm still wearing this white dress, this long.
Was this in 2018? Because I think you went to the AVNs, I know, in 2018, and you were nominated for an award.
For 3.
Oh my gosh, what were you nominated for?
For, I think it was best polygamy, and then best new series, and there was something else. So yeah, so I was all excited because I was like, you know, it's my first year, like really taking over the company, and I wrote a whole new series, and his company hasn't been nominated like in a really long time. So it was a big deal. I was trying to make him so that he was back on top again in a different way and brand him as this great husband. So I came up with that Faithfully Unfaithful series, you know, and we did that. And then we started, I started doing seminars for, you know, couples and stuff, and teaching
them stuff. Was that after the 2018 AVNs?
It was before and after.
Okay.
You know, but what happened with that one is I actually ended up having to sleep in the bathroom at this casino, and I give it to them. They clean the bathroom every hour. It's not funny, but looking back, I just
the casino bathrooms are exquisite. Like if I'm gonna fall asleep in any bathroom, it's gonna be a casino, Vegas casino bathroom for sure.
It's ridiculous. I literally had to change stalls every hour because I was sleeping on the floor. I was so tired. And then I missed.
What, he locked you out? He locked you out of your hotel room? Why?
Just because I walked out to just like, because I had that bruise, and I mean, he literally kicked me in my stomach. You know, so I'm just like, you know what? I was getting some air for a second, and I came back, doors locked, but I had the deadbolt. And I'm like, are you kidding me right now? Like, I'm supposed to be in hair and makeup in the morning. We're supposed to do another interview. I had to make up an excuse for that interview. And then nobody knows. I mean, Lil Wayne's on stage. We're 2 rows back. And here, I just got done sleeping in a bathroom the night before and, you know, pretending like everything's fine.
Did you have your phone? Was there anybody you could reach out to?
No, he had everything. Just like when I featured in Vegas. So I featured in Vegas, and it was the exact same thing. He grabbed all the money I just took, and he had my credit cards, my ID, and left me like downtown. And this guy who worked for the casino was like, we were staying with friends. We weren't staying, you know, at one of the casinos. They had this limo service. They're like, you're not the type that should be walking around down here. You're standing out, you know, had my Louis Vuitton bag, you know, I mean, so they ended up getting me a room. I mean, I was very grateful for that. And because they saw it was just, he was unreal. He was so controlling. I'd always push my hair in the front or he'd fix it and I'd get yelled at later.
Oh my God. Yeah, that sounds like similar to the guy I was with. He would be like, "Oh, I really just like it when you wear your hair back." So after a while, I would always wear it back. And
Right.
then it sounds like it's so just funny that these things are in common. And then he didn't like when I wore any makeup at all. And like I'd go to kiss
Right.
him or whatever. He'd be like, "Can you just like take off your makeup?" Like, because I would like to wear like thick, like cat eye eyeliner. He'd be like, "Could you just take your makeup off and then like come back?" And then so after a while, I just start wearing less and less. I wear like no makeup and my hair is back all the time. And I look, it's like the process of like dimming someone's light. And
Yeah.
it's like the frog in the hot water. You don't always notice it at first, or like your lives are so
Yeah.
intermingled that did he display this kind of behavior before you guys got married?
Not really, you know, and I honestly thought towards the end, okay, if we get rid of the business, maybe he'll be better. Maybe it's like a lot of pressure just because I finally got it where the business was making money. So it was sellable. So that's what we did, so we sold that and I still own the rights to my scenes, but I didn't get the 2257s from them and we sold it to another place, so I'm not making any money off of that. And, so it's just, as soon as I sold that is when everything got really bad. So he just was I don't know. That's when the two attacks happened. And everybody asks too, they say, why didn't I leave when he got arrested that first time, because it was like back to back, because he got out right away.
Was it in June? You mean in June of 2019?
Yeah. But he got out right away. And I wasn't expecting that. And I look up, it's like a horror movie and he's standing there. And next thing you know, my laptop's gone, all the keys are gone. I was literally held captive in that house. I mean, being very honest, so I couldn't leave. So that's why.
Yikes. In any of these instances, did you ever like try to fight him back or like hit him back or anything? Because I know in the article you mentioned, he would always like attack you from the back, which is like, I mean, God, it's
Always.
all so shitty, but like you were never expecting it to always be from the back. Did you ever
Yeah.
try to like hit him back or defend yourself in any way?
No, it's really hard when you don't know that he's just gonna blow, because he would look like he's just mad. I could see it in his eyes. He's like cold, but I know, okay, I'm just gonna walk away. Because we didn't fight, and he would just go off, and next thing you know, I'm just flying forward, and his thing was always to choke me. So, he would always choke me. Like, it was terrible. And the one time he flung me, I almost went over the banister, and I hit my shoulder on the door frame and then hit my knee. And I remember the cop, because you could tell he's from California, he goes, "That's the gnarliest rug burn I've ever seen." But it's like I couldn't even get help for that right away because he took everything. And then he's bringing me ice packs, because he tried not to ever hit my face because he knew I had to perform. And when I had my broken ribs was when I did Mrs. Peter North. I had broken ribs while I was doing that movie.
So you had to perform with these injuries. Did you ever know? I mean, did you hear of anything like this happening with women that he was with before meeting you, or before would he tell
Yeah,
any kind of stories of past relationships?
he really only had 2 relationships. He's never been married except this marriage. And he had a folder labeled Satan. And I'm like, what is this?
On his computer?
No, it was like a paper file.
Just a paper.
Yeah, but it had all this private investigator stuff in it. And this girl used to work for him, but she only did clerical. So he was saying that she was stealing cards and things like that, and she wasn't. He was mad because she left. So he would have this PI guy follow her all the way, all over.
What?
Yeah.
Ooh.
So
Okay.
I
Wow.
saw that, and then he had another girlfriend, and he hit her, and he called the police and had her arrested, saying it was her attacking him. So you see the pattern. So I don't know why Newport Beach police, I don't understand why the DA is still working on this. I mean, this is like, but this girl was so scared to even talk. She goes, she met with me, and she goes, I'm scared to death of him. I can't. And they weren't even together that long. So
This was his ex-girlfriend or the ex-employee?
Ex-girlfriend. I couldn't even get a hold of the ex-employee. So
Because that's crazy. Because there, I mean, it every once in a while you will hear like women who hit their boyfriends or they do abuse, the men, and then maybe a guy will try to stick up for himself or defend himself or at least like hold them off, and
yeah,
people will lie about this sort of thing, which is it's horrible, and then it gives the real victims of abuse a harder time
right.
being believed. So it sounds like, so Peter said his ex hit him, but then he tried to report her, but then how did you find out that that was a lie? Through talking to her, or
Talking to her
Mhm.
and knowing that when he first did it to me, that's what he did. He called the police and he told them it was me, and it wasn't. So I believed her right away. And that, and he didn't ever hit the girl that he had the PIs go after, but he still has people follow me, and he's talking to like my son's father, and those two are giving each other information. I mean, he's trying to destroy every aspect of my life still. And he, like I said, he took every dollar as soon as he got out of jail and came back to the house. So, I mean, it's terrible that these women or men, can't get help. It's like, in order for the domestic violence protection order to stay in place, you need a lawyer. I mean, they can say you can file it all day long, but it's not that way. And then I was told, look, he's a celebrity. That, this is hard to prove. But yet we lived in a gated community. I mean, literally, like when all that went down with Kobe Bryant, I mean, literally, he lived right there in the
Oh
next.
wow, in the
Yeah,
same area as you?
yeah, that's what I'm trying to say. So I was on this like hill with these celebrities and, locked up there. So it's just, the whole thing is just crazy. It's just, I'm just trying to be brave and talk and, hoping that he just signs this divorce. But I mean, I have so many medical issues now. And, he racked up credit cards in my name without me even knowing. He signed them off on the business, and I had no debt going into this marriage. I'm not asking for anything crazy, but he didn't even pay me to work.
Jesus. Well, so he didn't pay you for any of the like consulting you did, like to help the vitamin, the fitness business, and not.
Nah.
Yikes! Oh Lord.
He
Yeah.
told me in a CA and yeah, didn't happen. So
And was this the first ever kind of, abusive relationship you'd ever been in? Had you ever been with somebody in the past who was anything
um,
like this?
I was in one, but it was very, very first time I was gone. And, it was nothing like this. So nothing at all. I mean, he
Yeah.
literally, I've never seen somebody, you know, sing and then say they almost killed you and then, you know, finally let me go to the hospital but sit next to me and, pinch my back if I say anything and then say I slipped in the shower. I mean,
Yeah, he seems really twisted and just wanting to at some point, who knows over what, like, yeah, you probably just when you were talking about wanting to leave him, just snapped and wants to control slash ruin every aspect of your life. And
well, he tried to put out a $3 million life insurance policy on me right before this happened at the end. Yeah.
oh my God, that's not a huge red flag.
I
Jesus.
went I went
Mhm.
in for all the physicals. I passed, and he was mad at me because I didn't sign it yet. Yeah, and then that happened. So, the police. I have another audio actually that hasn't been released, and he was ripping the screens off the windows. And I said, "Can you please just stay at a hotel tonight?" And you can hear the rage in him, and he's banging on the windows and on the door. And the police were called for that, and they never came to the door. They didn't.
When
Even, they didn't even come to the door.
when was that?
That was right before the other recording where he hit me in the back of the head. That's why I was leaving. Because I'm like, this guy's crazy. So I tried to leave, and then he flew me back to Ohio with him. He like literally had me with him all the time. He like kept an eye on me.
Wow, that sounds really hard.
Mm.
What would be like, because it was in the article that he's not agreeing to a fair divorce. Like, what would be, fair for you? Like, what would you ideally like to get out of everything
I
or
just,
have happened?
I mean, he literally, when we sold the house, and he was supposed to put that deposit in with lawyers, and he didn't. He sold it with all the furnishings. I didn't get even a couch. He has all the cars, and I had to buy this junker, and I actually slept in the back of it. I took one blanket. So I couldn't get everything out of there. I mean, I still had I had a broken scapula, my shoulder blade, and then part of my shoulder up here. So it's like, how am I supposed to do? It was just so crazy. I don't know. It's just hard. So I just want what's fair. I'm not looking for like a bunch of money. I mean, just a vehicle, and then to pay off my medical, I have to have 2 more surgeries, at least. I just had one less than 2 months ago in my spine. So I'm still healing, and so I really can't work either just yet, because I need these other 2 surgeries. And I have a PTSD dog, so she's very helpful, because I've had seizures since this. So
Wow.
she'll lay on me. So it's just stuff to just like maintain stuff while I'm trying to heal and get my life back.
Yeah. And I'm sure it's really hard to talk about this, because there were probably like many times when you were like, am I going to die? I mean, that's how many of us can say that there are times where you're like, oh, I'm going to die. I might not make it through this situation.
Yeah. And you can hear it in his voice. He knows he almost killed me. And it's just, I mean, it's bad, because who says that, So it is pretty bad.
And like, for, I guess, people, right, we're doing this to prevent this from happening to other people. So how much time do you think it went by from like when things were good to when things were like really bad, and you were like, wow, I have to get out of this, and I don't know how to? Or
Yeah.
how much time do you think went by?
I mean, it took me a while, because I tried, and when he gets arrested and gets out, then what are you going to do? So it just, I don't know if it was the area, but I tried to get out. So it was probably about, I don't know, it was like a good 6 months. It was just pure hell.
Yeah. Which is like, I mean, really not that much time. Like, married couples will go through, I mean, problems that last years and years, and then they ultimately break up. It's like, oh, why didn't you do it sooner? It's just, you always hope that the person can change. And of course, like, so many of us have had the relationships where like the person just knows what to say to get things like back to being good with you, and you hope that they'll change. And um it's just, it's a lot harder than people think. It's very easy for folks who've never been in this situation to be like, oh, why didn't you leave? Why didn't you go sooner?
Yeah. I mean, there was signs before, but it's just, I should have known, because when I actually went to Exotica, I was on Vivid SiriusXM there, and he was in jail, and nobody knows that. So
When was
that was
that?
that was the very first incident. So I knew that
before the AVNs? Was that in like
this was like
2018? Okay.
It was 2017. It was that very first arrest that he had, because he's been arrested 3 times. And he sent a bunch of clothes to me because he wanted me to wear long sleeves, because I have bruises everywhere. So if you see me on SiriusXM, it's like I'm wearing this long sleeve dress, and it's because that's what he sent me, and he just got arrested for beating me up. So, but he had my son with him. He goes, "You're still going to Denver." Yeah. So it was pretty bad.
Was all the times that he's been arrested, was it all for domestic abuse, like against you?
Yes. Yeah. But he's kind of stopped after that, I think, because like I wanted to just be done, but he wanted me to run that company. So I think it was very business too. And then once we got married, he's just like, I own you. You're going to die married. So, and he just hasn't signed this divorce, and he thinks it's funny because I've seen the messages, he's sent to my son's dad, and they're just like, we think we're breaking her. I mean, this was just recently. He's just trying to use the money I made, by the way. I mean, I made that money, like, how many years of paying the mortgage there of like $12,000 something dollars. It's not cheap, but it's just sick. And he's still doing this. And I think that's why, I just finally had enough, and I have a good support system now, so they're like, you really need to tell your story.
Who was the first person you went to and really kind of let it all out?
I don't think I ever really, when that was going on, tell anyone. I mean, I had some car friends, and they would see bruises and ask, But I have a great publicist, Miss Laney, and she actually was my publicist then. And she knew, and I contacted her. And I also talked to Alana Evans. She's probably one of the only ones that actually I talked to during that and told her. So she's been there for me. And then, you know, I am seeing someone now, and I'm happy. And he's actually totally different. He's like a police officer. That's why, hence the flag.
Yeah. Oh,
But,
wow. Okay,
yeah.
that's great.
He was supposed to be the head of my security because I keep having to hide during all this because he kept pleading the fifth because you know, he was facing the felony charges for the kidnapping and drugging and all of that. So yeah, so I feel safer, you know. But he's been very supportive too and helping me come out with my story. So.
And I wonder if, you know, all of his, if you felt it was hard to come out to, you know, and talk about this with other girls in the industry or people that had worked with him. Like we see with like Weinstein, like how many people knew and nobody would say anything or do anything well because so many people worked with him and so many people's income was reliant on their relationship with him. Did you feel like that was the case with Peter?
I do, because people looked up to him, like, but they didn't realize I was the one hiring him for the company too. But they thought, okay, what if something happens, or, you know what I mean? They didn't want to get involved and shout it out. And Alana helped me. You know, she went to that first hearing with me. I was a nervous wreck for the domestic violence continuance because I got a restraining order, and people are like, well, then how did this other stuff happen? Well, he kept breaking it. So, you know, you open my car door, elbowed me in the face, and, you know, I've got blood coming down, and, you know, I take off. I mean, that was the very last incident that happened, and that was during the restraining order.
And I think there was, during the restraining order, I think this was like, was this August of 2019? It was and tell me if I'm wrong, there was mold in the house, and you asked him because is it because he had control over all your money at the time still? And you said, can I just get a hotel room because we're trying to sell the house and the house has mold in it?
What happened was there was an island, a kitchen island, and it had black mold in there. So they were doing mold remediation. I actually went to school to be a mold abatement contractor. So
how specific?
I'm very all over the place, kind of for flipping houses. But they had it with these everything else and all these blowers, and I was getting those. They were fixing that, and that's what happened. So I contacted them and just said, please, just can you get me a hotel, because I'm really sick, and I had no food, I had no car, because you know, I had no way to do anything. I mean, I lost so much weight. I was like skin and bones. It was just, it was bad.
And so he wanted to come over and see, like, was like, oh, prove that there's mold, and then that's when he came to the house.
Yeah, he told me to send him some pictures, so I did. You know, so I sent him those, and then he said, look, I want to come out there and make sure all the work's getting done. Like, I want to see it and inspect it. And I was like, you know, it was like one of those, I know this is wrong, but you know what? Maybe he'll just look at it. He's just going to look at it, you know? So he got me an Uber through the guard gate, and I met him, and then I drove his car through the guard gate, you know, and he's got, like, you know, his jacket over his head in the passenger side.
So that nobody would see him?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because there's cameras. Yeah. So, you know, he was downstairs looking at the mold and was going through the mail, and I said I was going to go throw on a hoodie, and because it was getting colder, because I was supposed to drop him back off, and, you know, didn't.
Ugh.
Yeah.
That's horrible. I have another question from K-Max. Was there a story about this with James Dean too? I hope it is still not common, but there are bad apples. Nacho Vidal is another one I heard about. Yeah, I heard about James Dean being like pretty abusive, but I think the story with him is he would do it with like girls he worked with and perhaps also, you know, on set or on camera. Did you hear about that?
No, the only one I knew about was Ron Jeremy. And actually, the crazy thing is, though, he was at Columbus Exotica with me, you know, and he grabbed onto me, and he was wearing these pointy, like, things on his nails, like metal, and he actually made me bleed. And he tried to attack me behind the Doc Johnson booth. And I just didn't say anything because I'm like, I'm like, I knew I was with Peter. I didn't want to, I just knew I didn't want to start anything, and I got away. So I'm thinking, and then I hear that stuff come out and I'm like, I should have said something, So I feel like this is why too, I'm also coming out and saying something like it's not okay.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, also, oh yeah, in the chat here, Stoya and Joanna Angel also spoke out against James Dean. Yeah. So it's like, it happens.
Well, I tried to get a hold of Chrissie Mayr because she went through, abusive thing. And actually, the district attorney's office said she's a really good advocate for that, but I never got a call back from her. Yeah, because they just said they're gonna exactly what we were talking about is that I'm in porn, and maybe that's what I like. Him putting my face down while he's doing that, and so they wanted other people in the industry, and I was like, what does that matter? They weren't there. Like, I don't understand why that matters. They didn't see anything. So yeah, it's
It seems like that's another hurdle, as far as getting legal representation, or even like outside. I don't know. I mean, therapists are supposed to be non-judgmental, but I feel like it's harder for folks outside the industry to be understanding. And then they're like, oh, maybe they don't, the judgment, maybe they don't want to work with anybody in the adult industry.
Yeah, I had a female psychiatrist, and I was telling her about it, and she goes, are you sure he really had a Ferrari? Are you just imagining this? And I'm like, we weren't even talking about the car. Like, you were just saying, where was I from? And like, she was asking me like specifics and stuff. And and I'm like, okay, this lady's not going to believe me. I mean, you know what I mean? So I ended up getting somebody different because they'll see
somebody that you got yourself, or a therapist that someone else found for you.
It was like through the hospital. But then I found somebody who was just like, look, I get it. Because he's from California. He dealt with other people that were, celebrities. And he's like, it's just hard for the average person to imagine certain things. Like, who's going to feel sorry for someone driving a Ferrari crying? Because he made me take, the first time I was able to leave the house after he was kicking me in the head, I went straight to the urgent care. And I told him I was going to the store because I was really concerned because I was so sick. And I thought maybe that they would ship me to the hospital. He freaked out, went to the parking lot of the grocery store. Is like, where are you? And he knew. So yeah, I was in so much after that. He ended up, finding out where it was. So, and then, I couldn't get out again. Yeah.
So since you've come out with this story, have you heard from him at all?
No. I don't even know his number.
That's good.
Yeah.
And so it's sort of like you're just dealing with his lawyers, I guess, and that's how you communicate.
Yeah. His lawyers, I was like in between lawyers because, I mean, obviously it costs a lot. I mean, it's ridiculous how much he's putting me through with this system. But if I don't do it, his lawyers sent me 2 emails saying, would you please sign this, that you wouldn't testify against him, with the district attorney. And unless you're guilty, you know what I mean? Like, it's the only times that they were able to really communicate with me. And I'm thinking, that's so wrong, So,
yeah. So you haven't been able to work like in the mainstream, right? Because of your injuries, or have you been, but you have an OnlyFans, like, are you able to kind of work with other folks and like kind of do stuff on your own?
I'm doing better. Like, that last surgery helped, So it's like I'm hoping to get back to myself and then get back into the industry, but do it on my own terms and have fun with it and not worry that somebody's going to look at it and get mad and, because that's what he would do too. Like, I worked with
Peter would get jealous and like watch your work with other people and feel like insecure or jealous.
He was really strange because he wanted me with other guys and he'd get mad if I didn't want to be with another guy. But then he would watch the behind the scenes and be like, why were you flirting with him? Why were you close to him? But then he's telling me too when he's on set. So it was like,
that's twisted. Yeah. Like, what
am I supposed to do? Exactly? I don't know. Yeah. Well, yeah.
So tell me about your OnlyFans. When did you start doing that? And I also want to know what you think of the new like drama with OnlyFans. Like,
I've heard so many different things though. I don't know if it's true. Is it like just not on cell phones, but you can still use your laptop? Because that's the last thing I saw. So I don't know if that's true or not. I don't
I've
know.
heard that they want to take like you can still do nudes,
Okay.
but you can't like do anything graphic supposedly like nothing, no porn, I guess. But
So no insertion or nudity is
I
okay.
think so. I think no
Either.
insertion, but
Okay,
no
'cause
nudity.
I'm like, okay, what does that mean? They have to be really specific because I mean, it's just I'm sure there's gonna be other platforms that are gonna come out.
There
Just
are already for
yeah,
sure.
I've
Yeah.
seen a few, and I'm like, I wonder who I should go with. You know, because I used to have an OnlyFans, but because he didn't give me the 2257s, the model releases, because he wants to control every aspect, they shut my page down.
Your OnlyFans was shut down.
Yeah, so I started a brand new one. So
Oh
that's
wow.
why that one's up now and going. So I'm having fun with it though, because now I can like interact and I'll do live and like talk to them and so it's a lot of fun. And I did enjoy doing my seminars and talking to people. So that was like my release,
Do you mean the seminars? Are you talking about the ones where was it like with like group stuff, like
Yeah,
and like
yeah.
swapping and all that? So you
Yeah.
were basically kind of like coaching. Was it like first time couples through it that were curious about it, or what was that like?
It was that I did easing into anal was one of my seminars. So I would teach, it was for couples too though. So it would show the guy, okay, this and like the girls how to prep themselves, and it's a muscle. You can't just run a marathon if you haven't, practiced is the way I put it.
Mhm.
So I would do that, and then I would do a woman's only because some of the girls just forget how to flirt. They've been married for a really long time, and I'm like, oh, come here, girl, I'm gonna help you. And it's like, well, how do you know if a girl's bi? How do you approach her? So we role play, we do things like that. So to me, that was just fun. It was a good
Yeah.
time.
I feel like all married people should take this class, like whether they want to swap or not. Like they're probably most married people have not even flirted with their own spouse in like
Yeah,
decades. So it's like it's so easy to get crusty, and like that's
yeah,
something that everybody should really work on. And just like you would go through your closet, yeah, it's like go through your moves and like just be like,
right.
oh yeah, just try to seduce your wife or your husband, like get weird, smile at them, go
Exactly.
nuts.
Just yeah, it's introducing new things, and just I
Mhm.
tell them all it's a big step even being there. That's a huge step. I'm like, give yourselves a round of applause. Like this is a big moment.
Do you feel like with what you went through with
You know,
Peter, like has any
doing it, and I'm like, communication's key, and like if it's swinging, I'm like, then maybe you should try this, or so I do the one-on-one, I do the round table, I do things like that, but I have a blast with it. It's like so much fun. Then I make little notes and stuff, and it's so funny if you saw my notes. It's like to keep me on point because I am very sexual, and you know, so it's just the way I am. It's easy for me to do is stand up there and talk about stuff.
well, it's good that like you haven't been, turned off by the abuse. Like, have you found like is there anything that is sort of I don't know, ruined for you or anything that's like something you used to like that but because of what you went through with Peter, like you just can't do anymore or
I,
has
I
changed?
mean, the only thing I do, I mean, I'm still dealing with going out in public and stuff. I do get shaky. I'm not gonna lie. Like I
Mhm.
still have PTSD pretty bad. It's like a train horn will go off and I'll jump. It's just the way I
There's
am.
been like 3 in this podcast already. You
I know.
gotta move away from the train.
It's like so funny. But yeah, I'll jump and I'll start to like sweat and stuff, and yeah, sometimes I pass out or have a seizure, but I'm doing a lot better. But as far as everything else, I'm not gonna take it out on anyone else. It was him. He ruined the experience.
Mhm.
That doesn't mean I think anything less of anybody that I worked with, or it's just I can just do it on my own terms now. So
That's good. That's good
yeah.
that you're not like shutting down.
Yeah. I thought I'd never date again, to be very honest. I was very, very guarded. Like, I didn't want to go anywhere, talk to anyone. And, so it was pretty surprising when I started to.
That's understandable. And so the guy that you're with now, he was like he went from your security to your
Yeah.
boo. That's
My
cute.
head is security, and then to actually sitting next to me.
Oh,
I'm
hi,
gonna drag you in.
boo. Oh, hello. He's cute.
He's a sweetie. So
Oh.
yeah. But he's also a police officer. He's been for over 20 years. So it makes me
Whew.
I know.
I used to just hang out in front of police stations and fire stations, like just sort of
Right?
posing, and it
You're
never
like,
worked for me. Yeah,
yeah. See, I just
there's
happen to
something about it.
oh my
Something about a
gosh.
man in uniform. So great. So where can people go now to, find you, follow you, support you, keep in
Yeah.
touch with your story and how things are progressing?
I mean, they can go on my OnlyFans. It's Real Nadia North. And then I do have a Twitter, Nadia XXX North. And then I have an Instagram, which is, I think it's Real Nadia North also. So, I mean, and then I'm starting a TikTok thing too, because that's a big thing. So I'm going to be putting,
Oh, good for you. I can't bring
yeah.
myself to do it. I was like, I can't do choreography.
I just thought it'd be fun. I miss
Mhm.
directing. I love being like behind the camera and getting the angles. And, to me, that's a blast. So this should be fun.
Well, good for you, and I think it's
Yeah.
you're a really good example of how, like, your life does not have to stop. The things that you enjoy don't have to be ruined just because of bad experiences, and you're so brave. Thank you for coming on and talking to me about it, and, I'm sure you're helping a lot of people, and just, you're being open about it,
Well,
and just everything.
I appreciate you having me on here. And I've had a lot of people email me saying, look, this is actually what I'm going through. So it's, that makes me feel better. I like to help others and it makes me heal, if that makes sense. So,
Absolutely.
yeah. So hopefully it's
Um
others.
Random, I don't know how appropriate this super chat is. Okay, from Matthew. So does role playing getting arrested work for her? Oh boy.
No, we haven't done that. I
Aw.
mean,
That would be date number one. I'd be like, get out all of your cop things.
yeah, well, yeah, that's,
Oh my goodness.
right, exactly.
All right, Nadia, you're a blast. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story. I really hope everything works out for the best, and I'm really sorry about everything you went through. It's like really unbelievable, and just the fact that you're being open about it is a big deal.
I appreciate you having me.
Of
So,
course, of course. All right, well, we'll keep in touch, and
okay, well, it's
we'll
good.
we'll do this again sometime. Thanks, Nadia.
Bye.
Bye.